And hello, welcome to the Dragon Plus live stream where we discuss more of the content heading into each issue of Dragon Plus. As always, the free online magazine app available on iOS, Android, and at dragonmag.com. I've got two special guests today and headphones on, which means one of our guests is calling in remotely, and one of them is dancing next to me at the moment right now. So welcome to Chris Lindsay and Alan Patrick.
Hello.
Hello.
So before I kick it over to a couple of introductions, I did want to run down a little bit of what we are talking about in this live stream. So Alan has an adventure design in the works that we'll be talking about shortly, available on the DM's Guild in a near future release, I believe. And it involves a character that Mr. Lindsay has created some awesome voice work for in the past and at live stream events that took place earlier this summer. So
It's true.
we wanted to talk about the adventure and the DM's Guild and adventure design in general because you guys are obviously awesome candidates to ask questions about that. And then at the end of the episode, we're reserving some time. Chris is recording a couple of voice lines for future use. We thought we would just go ahead and live stream the recording session just for fun. But we wanted to talk about what it is that you do here at Wizards of the Coast and adventure design first before we do so.
So at Wizards of the Coast, I have a number of roles that I fulfill. One is I work in product development and primarily on the end of product development that doesn't actually involve writing any like cool stuff that goes in the books or generating any of the art. Things like legal things and working with customer service and sales and that sort of thing.
And cool stuff that's written on the books.
And yeah. Now, I do get to help enhance the experience of the books with the assistance of my admins for D&D Adventures League, and we always enjoy doing that. So I'm also responsible for Adventures League, and I'm responsible for doing stuff and things with the Dungeon Masters Guild. After I created it, they said, now you have to take care of it. Never let that puppy come home.
Stuff and Things would make a great podcast product. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would be a fantastic podcast. It would be Dungeons and Dragons, Stuff and Things.
We've got spoilers and swag. We would just have stuff and and things.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, absolutely.
and Alan, of course, from the D&D Adventures League, speaking of which, but can you let us know, for folks who might not have been introduced to you, you came on Dragon Talk not too long ago, but who are you and what do you do?
I do nerdy things. I've worked with Chris here for a while with the D&D Adventures League. With Chris Tulloch prior to that, so I've been around the AL since inception. It was a very, very cold meeting in Fort Wayne with all of us.
That was at Winter Fantasy, I take it?
And it was very confusing because Inception was involved.
Yes.
I could see that being confusing.
Exactly. Most of my duties revolve around community management, although I do chip in with the management maintenance of some of our ongoing documentation. I write the occasional adventure, and most recently I've sort of swiveled my attention away from writing seasonal content and into like DM's Guild and Guild Adept products.
Super cool. So we wanted to, I guess I wanted to go, this is going way, way broad, but the DM's Guild.
Yeah.
I know you had a hand in how that first came about, Mr. Lindsay.
Yeah, the original, specs for the Dungeon Masters Guild, I still have the document. I keep it just for giggles. The original document that I drafted is dated in 2010, and it's one of the initial things that I created shortly after I joined the brand team for Dungeons and Dragons. And then, oddly enough, it went through all these iterations and stuff, and we worked with the executives and the legal team and stuff to make it through. It changed over and over and over again over the years before it got released. And then when we actually released it, the final document looked like a neater, cleaner version of what I originally produced.
It's weird how that works out.
I told them it would work.
Yes.
No, I have a deep fondness for the DMs Guild. I love that it is a platform for creators to be able to create content and
Absolutely.
put it up for sale. And
Yeah. No, I love seeing all of the excitement and enthusiasm and all the hard work that people put up into their products that they put up on the Dungeon Masters Guild. And as time has gone, it's been going for like since 2016, right? So the products have only gotten better and better as folks have figured out who their audience is and what it takes to actually sell in a marketplace.
And in each issue of Dragon Plus, we do try to call out some of the DMs Guild material. We've got the best of the DMs Guild section. And I think last issue we had one of the kind of kid-friendly scenarios for our kid-friendly issue. But Alan, we wanted to ask about an adventure I believe you and MT Black are currently working on.
Yes. So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say. So, please tell us about it, and you know, a little bit about the details and what we can look forward to about it.
Sure. MT Black is he's a heck of a creator. He was an early adopter for DM's Guild. I remember looking at some of his products. I bought some of his products early on. I was really impressed with just the creativity and the simplicity that he was able to use to communicate some really cool concepts. And now we fast forward a couple of years, and I have an opportunity to work with him. And this spun out of just some idle conversation that we had in a side channel. Like, we didn't intend on it to take life. But with Waterdeep being released now, we were talking about things that we really liked from some of the older Waterdeep box sets and books and stuff. And we hit on the topic of a place called Blue Alley. Blue Alley, it's a trap warehouse. There's all sorts of really cool stuff in there and hints at a lot of long, ongoing, potentially intricate plots involving the masked lords of Waterdeep, a wizard that owns the property that may or may not actually be there. Why did he set this up? Where has he gone? All sorts of things. And in like a 30-minute idle conversation, he and I had we realized at the end of it that we spitballed out the outline of an entire low-level adventure that we were both laughing and having a great time doing. So we just converted our notes from the chat channel into a template, and now we have an adventure that our playtest groups have really, really loved.
So that's kind of interesting. For the for the adventure design, do you have playtest groups sort of on hand that you like to run material by, or how does that work?
For me personally, it depends on the kind of content that I'm trying to put together. Every author is going to be a little bit different. Every developer is going to be a little different in how they deploy that content. But if I'm putting together, say, a combat-heavy adventure, or like something very epic in scale, and armies on armies or big significant bad guys or something, I have a couple of groups that I will farm that out to for feedback. The same with role-play centric and more like exploration stuff. Ultimately, I like to get it out to a variety of those groups to get a better cross-section, but I've got enough feelers out in the community to where I can tag in people to say, hey, I have this brainwave. Am I off the mark? Like, this is supposed to be a role-play encounter. Do you feel that it's cool? And sometimes they'll get back to me and be like, that was awesome. We played it for our group, and it took this much time. And other times, I don't get that feedback, and this was a train wreck. What have you done? These were words. What did you do?
I imagine there's got to be a good level of trust and relationship for them to feel comfortable giving you the hard feedback as well as the kind feedback.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of these gamers I know from conventions going back years and years at this point. And sometimes it's just word of mouth. I see people post really well done reviews, again, through DM's Guild and sometimes through like Facebook and other sources. But one of the things that I try and communicate out to my playtesters is I want that critical feedback. And remember that, like, I'm trying to develop an art. I'm trying to develop an enjoyable product. Please, remember that I'm a human on the other side of the screen, but I've got pretty thick skin. We'll say it's a broken childhood, but really, like, I just want to I just want to deliver something that's super awesome, and sometimes that means I need to hear the hard stuff too.
Sure. So maybe going back to the beginning of a project that a designer would be potentially interested in creating. Let's say I'd like to create an adventure material for the DM's Guild. Are there general parameters that you would suggest for somebody who's looking to create material that's suitable for the DM's Guild? Adventure content, what have you. What rough guidelines would you suggest for?
Do you mean like the process they should go through, or like?
Well, I guess that's true for both, not just the process, but if you were looking to create an adventure for the DM's Guild from a very blank slate.
Wow, I guess.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it's a really solid question. If you're going from a completely blank slate, first of all, the Dungeon Masters Guild is focused on content that is set in the Forgotten Realms. You can certainly put on content that is set nowhere, if that's your choice. But Forgotten Realms is one place you can set content. Now you can set content in Eberron, or you can set content in Ravenloft. But the thing is that you have only a limited number of places you can go. But inside those places, there's a lot of scope. So that leaves you with a really wide field to work in. Generally speaking, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is if you have a story that's near and dear to your heart, that you really want to get out there, an adventure that you feel like everybody would have a good time playing, that's what you should go with. And just set it appropriately based on the worlds that are available in the guild. However, if your goal is to basically get found in the Adventurers League, or for Adventurers League work, or for even work at Wizards of the Coast, my recommendation is always to start with the source material. If you want us to pay attention, I'm really looking at a lot of content on the Dungeon Masters Guild now that is urban, set in Waterdeep. Does it sound familiar? It plays like Ocean's 11, maybe. But yeah, start with like Dragon Heist or another one of our published adventures and create that content. Generally speaking, I'm looking at whatever is most current, and then do something realistic. Short content does really well because it's easily consumed, right? It's always easier. It's kind of like going through the buffet line. You'd rather just like grab the little snacks off the trays of the guys walking by you than have to struggle through the line and get like the roast beef and everything, right? And that's just a big meal. And, it's just easier to take the snacks. And if you have bite size, it's easier to digest that content, to get it in and to look at it and to really tell and really focus in on a good product that you're making, as opposed to just going something that's wildly out of depth,
And what would you consider short content? Like number of encounters?
Basically, anything that you could play in an evening.
Okay.
Right? An adventure that you could play in an evening, and I'm saying 2 to 4 hours.
And it sounds like for the adventure you're creating, Alan, it definitely falls into that, the guidelines, the suggestions of take a look at the zeitgeist, take a look at the current storylines going on, and correct me if I'm wrong, that tends to be what garners a bit of recent attention from consumers in the DM's Guild.
Absolutely, because each dungeon master that is out there, basically, nobody ever runs a published adventure as is. They always add things of their own. If an author like Alan and MT and other folks on the Dungeon Masters Guild can provide something that they can add in to flavor up what's already kind of a rich soup of adventure, then that's a great place to go.
And I guess my question would be on the Adventurers League side of things. How is the process maybe the same or different for that as far as creating adventures, running adventures? Is there different guidelines or different processes that folks need to follow for Adventurers League adventurers?
Well, for our stuff here in the last few seasons, we've been making a conscious effort to bind our ongoing organized play adventures into, say, like story hooks or events that are present within the hardcover as well. Maybe there's a seed planted in the lower tiers of the adventure that we can explore maybe in like tier 3 play, so at a level 11 plus, right? We want to have that, that cohesive experience, so it feels like those players and those DMs are still playing in the same bubble, in the same sandbox, and not necessarily picking piecemeal from adventures that are placed all over the world. It gives people more of a sense of an ongoing narrative. And from a development standpoint, that means that we look at our core materials first and foremost. So we try to encourage our designers and our authors to, select from like Monster Manual, Player's Handbook, DMG options, rather than going super, super outside the fence and just building all the really crazy stuff, which can be really cool. But in that organized play experience, you want to make sure that everyone has the same set of expectations going in, both dungeon masters and players. And sometimes the really cool stuff that's not from the core elements can be a little hard to manage. So just like Chris did, yeah. But ultimately, especially starting with this season, we want to focus on the story and the narrative over having super huge, impactful combats, which those do have their place. Mm-hmm. But you're always going to have those players that are like, that looks like a really huge encounter. What happens if I don't know, find a way to summon a castle and drop it on them? Like, can I do that? Or whatever crazy thing your players come up with. And we're changing the way we look at adventure design to try and incorporate more of those things, more of a DM's toolbox rather than a DM's script.
Okay. And speaking of sort of narrative and storytelling, I did want to touch on sort of the descriptions within adventures. Yeah. Box text traditionally has been used, or other descriptions. Thoughts or advice for designers interested in creating that for their adventures? Do you recommend it? Do you recommend certain ways of doing it?
There's definitely,
less is more.
Like Alan said, less is more. There's definitely several schools of thought on boxed text. But I think the prevailing idea is that if you can give them the information they need to impart and then let them kind of run with it and present that in a way that is meaningful and maybe dramatic to their players, that can be more important than providing like 3 pages of box text that imparts all of the information that you want them to have when they start the adventure. And really, outside of like the Star Wars, series, most stories and most good movies out there these days, or even good books, like jump right into the adventure. And so delivering a whole bunch of box text to begin with, generally speaking, is like, it prohibits that initial spark of like jumping into the action and getting going and having that initial excitement as you begin playing the adventure. So it's really important that box text be something that sparks the imagination of the dungeon master to allow them to provide that spark without overwhelming them.
Right, and something that I try and talk to new authors or maybe some of our community content creators, when it comes to box text, you have a DM interacting with a page where that box text is located. When you escape that set of confines and you put it down in bullet points or whatever, you then have the DM engaging with the players, meaning that everyone's involved in the story, and it's not just that singular, very insulated relationship. Like Chris said, it helps people dive right into the adventure and gets everyone right off the rails, right off the beginning, and it's a much better feeling.
And I think we've seen a bit of that in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, right?
Yeah.
There's a bit of a change in the way that encounters are presented. There's some box text, and then there's some, as you say, some bullet points for the DM to expand upon based on how it's going around the table. So.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Adventures League, I know that there have been, because I've been working on those pages with Mr. Lindsay recently as well, some recent changes that took place regarding, say, rules, rewards. Anything to touch upon there for folks that might not be aware?
So if you are in the Adventures League, but just not as online as other folks might be, what you may not be aware of is that there are a set of shared world rules for rewards in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. And we have delved in and grabbed that content because we worked with Mike Merles to get that generated, and we have adopted that new system, and it's definitely going through some of its growing pains as we actually apply it to the Adventures League paradigm, as it were. But I can tell people that it's a much simpler system. Go online, have a look at it, ask us your questions. There seems to be some confusions here and there, and we're doing our best to, whenever possible, clarifying all of the text in there and making changes to the text in order to make sure that when people read it, it is as understandable as possible. But ultimately, the idea behind the shift of rewards from, say, using experience points over to using achievement achievement points, which basically are fewer in number and easier to track. It just makes things much more simple for us to work in that system and have dungeon masters who will have to interact with a player they've never seen before or a character they've never seen before, and very easily sift through that paperwork and look and see, oh yeah, you got everything in order, and move right along with the game and have fun.
It also eliminates some of the intricacies of the math that would occasionally happen, where a player would be like, "Oh, how much gold did I earn?" And you're like, 329. No, wait, 326, but 5 silver. By adjusting the way we're looking at those rewards models, we can just say, "Hey, you've earned X number of treasure checkpoints, and you can use them for everything on this list. And you've also unlocked this other thing. You now add that to your list as well."
Yeah.
And so folks want to find out a little bit more about the D&D Adventures League or some of the changes taking place. Where's the best place we would like to send them?
I would send them directly to the Dungeons & Dragons website.
Okay.
Under events and Dungeons & Dragons Adventures League there to start with. And there is a website at dndadventuresleague.org, and we are working to kind of mind meld the two sites together into a single unified purpose so that there's less confusion about where to find what when you're looking for how to get involved in Adventures League, how to create content for Adventures League, or even how to put on your own Adventures League event.
And I know Alan and I have been talking about that on the back channel as well. So D&D website, and look for some added information from dndadventuresleague.org to be added there in the coming days. Speaking of the Adventures League, I know things are afoot at Gamehole Con taking place a little later on in the year in November. Alan, did you want to mention a little bit about what you're doing there?
So the team, to preface this, like the D&D team that's going to be there, along with all the staffers and everybody, they have some really cool things set up. But I'm really super proud of something that we somehow managed to get on the schedule. Chris was really, really open to the idea when I pitched it to him. And that is that the admins are going to be playing one of the levels of Undermountain. So Undermountain releases Friday of Gamehole Con, and we will be playing through that experience, is all I can call it, as key NPCs from the Adventures League campaign. So there are some recurring characters we've had going back all the way to the beginning in Season 1, and each of the admins will be playing one of those roles. I will be the Dungeon Master, and that means that I have 5 players. So my 6th player is a very special extra guest. What do you say, Chris? Should we announce who it is?
Go for it.
All right. So my 6th player is Matthew Lillard from Beetle and Grimm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's going to be joining us in the role of Beetle. So for those people who are familiar with that character.
Appropriate enough.
Yeah, exactly. Undermountain? That's full of magic stuff, right? I want it. I want it all. I'm very much looking forward to the craziness that we're about to unleash, because it's already like a Suicide Squad worth of players here, worth of characters rather.
It's all for the kids.
It's all for the kids, and we are already talking about some of the goofy stuff that might come up. Now that said, like, I'm not telling them what they're going to be encountering, because all of this goes for Extra Life, and I have some things on my Extra Life page where people all around the world can actually help me build out additional things for encounters. Like, they can buy a trap or a monster or a spell or any number of things for me to drop into the adventure, and at certain tiers I'll just name that encounter after them.
So we all know who's at fault, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good point. Who to blame for what's
that's right.
befallen the player?
It's for the kids.
It's all for the kids.
It's all for the kids.
Gamehole Con will be taking place in November 8th through the 11th, I believe, over in up in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Which is a wonderful town. I might have
is.
some collegiate familiarity with, so I heartily recommend anyone taking a visit to Madison. Although
Absolutely.
they just dropped their last game against in last football game, but we will move on from that emotionally. And
Sports ball.
With the points and the touchdowns.
That's right. One team was sporting better than the other team.
They
and
scorched
the other
real hard.
team lost.
And not enough of the points this
That's
go
right.
around. But hey, what can you do?
Maybe more penalties next time.
It was a bad sports ball week all around from Seahawks also last evening. So I know you were following that diligently.
I was
Yeah.
the bad Seahawks sports ball night. I was all about that.
No, you have to root for the Seahawks now because we mentioned last week we've got Dungeon Mayhem coming out, and one of the Seahawks, CJ Procyse, was a playtester for playtest lead on one of them.
Clearly, he has something more going for him than sports ball, which is good.
In any case, Gamehole Con will be taking place November 8th through 11th. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, we'll be live streaming the game that you're running? Okay, great.
Saturday afternoon is when we're playing. So
Okay.
I am equal parts terrified and super excited.
It's going to be great.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of the games will be live streaming on the D&D
Yes.
Twitch channel. We've got the schedule up on the website as well, so you can always reference that for what's taking place. Mike Merles is running a game. Chris Perkins is running a game. Stefan Picorni is running a first edition D&D game as well. So
Oh, that crazy Stefan. While they're all running these games, I'll be in the other room with the Adventures League folks, and we're going to be rerunning the D&D Open from Origins there. And if I can get all the pieces assembled, I will be reprising my role as Mert the Moneylender during that experience. So,
And that is pure magic. If you get a chance to see that, I highly
need a fan.
I was going to say, will you be reprising the costume as well?
Yeah, I'll be wearing the costume. I gotta order a new mustache.
And if I had a nickel for every
Yeah.
time I had to order a new mustache. But that costume in Madison in November will be much more, beneficial than Ohio in May.
That's what I'm hoping. Way more comfortable than Ohio in May. Definitely way more comfortable than LA in June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. That makes some sense. So speaking, kind of going back to Extra Life. So Alan, what kind of you've got your page up on Extra Life. You're both
Yes.
are doing phenomenal, and it's much appreciated. And again, shout out to everyone in the community as well who's already donated to Extra Life. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. But for folks that have not donated, Alan, what kind of rewards are you kind of putting up for to kind of sweeten the deal for folks?
So I have a couple of things out there. Like I said earlier, there's some reward tiers where people can jump in and have me add some things into the admin game during the stream. There's some ways to award my players inspiration. That's sort of a lower tier, but they can be awarded any number of inspiration points. So I hope people really jump on that because sometimes you really just need the help on the rolls. I have at a certain prize threshold, a reward threshold, I'm giving away the dice that I'll be using. The dice that I have for this game are Brazilian cherry heartwood. They're handcrafted from a local place. I really, really like them. So as much as I love them, it's for a really good cause. So I'm not going to be too heartbroken to let them go. I'll just have
All
to
for
get
the
them set.
kids.
It's all for the kids, yes. And then like my big one, well, my fun one rather, is I'm giving away some customized worm pets because I've written some content about Caius.
Mm-hmm.
So these pets might be rock grubs, just saying, and they might be suitable as familiars because why not?
Ew.
Hey, they're lovable in their own very horrible way.
Ew.
It's for the kids.
Well, this is like Emi Tanji and her association with what are those horrible looking things?
Oh my God.
The Wretched.
The Wretched. Yeah, the worst. Oh.
And then my big tier, the two big things, the biggest of them all, in my opinion, is you donate in a certain threshold, and you bring your group to my general area here. I'm out in Lansing, Michigan, and we will arrange a day. They pick an adventure, and I run that adventure with my own special flair and twist, and I make sure that everyone has a great time. I've already had somebody take me up on that, and I'm hoping to get a couple more because there's some really cool stuff out there. It doesn't have to be stuff that I wrote. There's a lot of really cool content. And then the last really big one is I will co-write and co-develop an adventure with whoever picks that up. So there's one of those available. I'm not guaranteeing AL legality or anything, but they get half the profits. They get the co-writer credit. We'll both be on equal footing there. It goes on DM's Guild. and I'll spring for whatever art assets we need, layout, all that stuff.
Wow.
Cool.
And Mr. Lindsay, same question. You've also got a page. You've been running pages for several years now. What's going on this year for you?
I have a number of tasty treats this year. I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. At the $250, if you can donate that much money, you get a cert called Durnan's Get Me By. This magic item will allow your character to produce one potion of greater healing each day. The rest of the time, it produces on command a fine beer of Durnan's Own Adventure, a fine sweet wheat ale that sinks in like sunshine and kicks like a mule. For $500, you get Mert's Everfull Tankard. This magic item allows your character to produce one potion of supreme healing each day. The rest of the time, it produces, on command, a fine beer of Mert's Own Invention. Dark, creamy, and soothing to the savage soul, plus you can stand a spoon up in it.
I like that one.
Yeah. For $1,500 one time, if one person wants to do this, and they'd love to see me be miserable, I will Dungeon Master my Extra Life game on November 3rd as Mert the Dungeon Master. I will wear the costume and everything and adopt the character as the Dungeon Master. I feel kind of bad for my players if I do that, because if people think I'm a heartless Dungeon Master, just wait till Mert is your Dungeon Master. So that can only happen once. It hasn't happened yet, though. So it's still out there, folks. I have 8 more certs available for folks who would like to donate $1,500 to have one character for D&D Adventures League that is legal at PHB plus 2. That's right, you heard it here, folks. PHB plus two books. The big stretch goal that I have currently up there, which I kind of did as a joke, but some people are taking a little seriously, is if I can get the $500,000 all by myself, I will make the next season, starting in September next year, 2019, PHB plus 2 for everybody.
For everybody?
Everybody.
Fantastic.
So I guess we're looking for one. What is this 500,000 like accumulated, or does it have to be one 500,000?
Oh no, accumulated total. Right. Yeah, if I can hit $500,000 by myself with everybody jumping in, all bets are off. Yeah. I mean, now that said, remember, folks, it's really all for the kids. I am looking to help out as many people as possible, honestly, and the closer we get to that goal, the more inclined I might be to drop it. How is that?
Oh, tempting.
Extra incentivizing.
Yeah.
But yes, again, it is kind of a cause that we all hold near and dear here at Wizards of the Coast and beyond, and it's for the Children's Miracle Network of Hospitals. So we're a proud supporter of that. Again, really quickly, because I see them on the chat as well, I wanted to thank some of my donors, Jen Roth and Stabby Quest of the Stabby Quest podcast, who's going to be appearing on this live stream in a future date to kind of talk through his projects and endeavors. Thank you so much for donating. I'm still looking for, I've got smaller donation goals. I'm just looking for somebody to pick my class for for the game. But you did bring up a date I did want to mention as well. On November 3rd, we're going to be live streaming 3 games here at Wizards of the Coast on the Extra Life Game Day. Chris Lindsay will be Dungeon Master for the 3rd and final game of the evening. So.
It will be the awesome. And my players will be Bill Benham, Travis Woodall, and Will, whose last name I can't remember right now for some reason. Straley. Yeah, that's it. Who I belovedly refer to those 3 as the 3 Stooges, plus the lovely Satine Phoenix and Todd Kenrick, who are all amped and excited and ready to go through hell for you. Not literally, of course.
Before we kick over to some voice lines we're going to record with Mr. Lindsay, I did also want to mention another live stream game that's in the works, not related to Extra Life, I believe. But Alan, you've got something that you're cooking up for a little bit down the road as well, correct?
I do. So I haven't put out a whole lot of info on this. So what we're about to say here is sort of like a world first official reveal stuff. But I know, look, it's super exciting, right? The Beetle and Grimm Platinum Edition of Dragon Heist is coming in November. And one of the things that I'm really excited for in that is that it's full of really cool stuff. And in talking to our community, there were some concerns from people. They're like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. What are we going to do with that? So I decided I'm going to show you. So I ordered a box, and I've been talking to Chris and some other people. I have assembled a team of really energetic players, some new people in there, some people who aren't necessarily exposed to organized play, and some veteran players. And I'm going to be running using the AL Adventures League rules, going to be running Waterdeep using the Platinum Edition starting in December. So it's going to be minis and props and all sorts of stuff. I've got a local group actually building me a studio for this.
Wow.
It's super exciting.
Nice.
And we're privileged to have that on the D&D channel as well, so very much looking forward to it.
It's hard to find good cartoons on Saturday morning, so hopefully people will at least grab their bowl of cereal and join me for some D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all remember when Saturday morning was the only time that you could really watch cartoons in a meaningful way, and now it's just like, well,
it's true.
Watch them on tap.
Yeah, it's not even like cool anymore. No.
I'd have done it if I had YouTube as a kid.
Yeah, this way you can grab your Fruit Loops and watch some Fruit Loops.
Yeah, hey, I've answered worse.
So, as mentioned at the top of the hour, we're going to do a bit of Mert voice recording. We had a couple of lines we wanted Mr. Lindsay to record, but to make sure we've got enough time for that before we go into D&D News, we'll be on at 3 p.m. Pacific and Dice Camera Action at 4 p.m. Pacific. Wanted to bid adieu to Mr. Patrick, but thank you so much for joining us today. Talk a little bit about the Adventures League and your own live stream game and Extra Life coming up.
Yeah, happy to be here, guys. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, and we'll talk some more about the website articles.
Sweet.
So for everyone else, please stick around. We're going to have Chris Lindsay's got some voice recording. We thought we would just go ahead and we're going to do it live. We'll do it live.
That's right.
On
We're
air.
doing it live.
Doing it live. And depending on how much time we have at the end, we've got just a couple more news and announcements, but I'll save those. I want to make sure you've got enough time to get through.
That's right.
Your voice. So, ooh.
It got really quiet in here all of a sudden.
It did.
What did you do? What?
We can take our headphones.
Okay, cool.
What?
All right, so here we are. What? Here we go. We're going to do some stuff and things.
So you're recording a couple lines for who now?
So these are for Ellen and MT, and basically Mert is the quest giver for the adventure that they are working on called Blue Alley, set in the Forgotten Realms, or in Waterdeep specifically. And they asked me if I would do some sound bites for them. So we're gonna give this a shot, and then who knows what'll happen with this recording.
Yes, we'll get that announced when we got it sussed out a little bit further.
We'll arrange the details once we know more.
But in any case, we got some lines to record, and best way to do this, I'm looking at Pelham. Do you want to? Is it a good idea to just kill my mic for the time being, and we'll just have Chris? Okay. So sadly, I will be off mic. But,
go ahead and let me know when you're ready. Good evening, friends. I hope you're having a grand time in this fine establishment. It's not to everyone's taste, but I find I like it very much. If you don't know me, my name is Mert. As it so happens, I've heard of you. In fact, I make it my business to know a wee bit about all the adventurers passing through Waterdeep. So I'm guessing that an enterprising group such as yourselves are looking for an opportunity to earn a little coin and perhaps have some fun doing it. If that's true, I have a question for you. Have you heard of Blue Alley? And then after that, the players would have an opportunity, of course, to ask questions and so forth, and maybe ask Mert what it is that he's asking them to do, and he might give them some more information, such as, years ago, a reclusive wizard whose name has gone lost a long time constructed Blue Alley, a dungeon filled with traps, tricks, and all kinds of strange creatures. Stories say that the wizard secretly observes all who enter Blue Alley, gambling with equally secretive colleagues on the outcome of each venture taken within. A load of hog spit, if you ask me. However, these stories also say that Blue Alley is likewise filled with fabulous treasure of particular interest to me. Are stories regarding a wee sculpture named the Celestite Unicorn. If you enter Blue Alley and if you secure this knickknack from my collection, I'd be willing to pay you as much as 250 gold dragons for your trouble. That's right, a whole 250 gold dragons. To get you started, it's my understanding that the entrance to this famed dungeon is off Ivory Street in the Sea Ward. To find it, look for an alley with cobblestones made from a strange blue stone. And then, the adventures will happen, and they'll go on, and then they'll come back, and they'll have a number of choices they need to make. Like, did we get it? If yes, are we actually going to give it to Mert for 250 gold pieces? Here are some possible reactions that Mert might have, one way or the other. I see you've come out with your hides intact. So you've got that going for you. Well done. I don't suppose you managed to find the knick-knack I'm looking for. The Celestite Unicorn? Well, look at that. You've got it. And you're as good as your word by turning it over. I've got a sack of dragons here for you. If any new lucrative opportunities should arrive, I'll be sure to be in touch. It's nice to find a band of enterprising explorers with a sense of honor. Perhaps they tell him they didn't find it, or they don't find it. Was it not there? Or perhaps the invention of some crusty old page-flipping troglodyte defeated your mighty band. It's too bad you couldn't manage it. Oh, well, maybe I can find you future work with the Launderers Guild or the Fishmongers Fellowship. Don't lie to Mert. He will know. But if you do, this is what might happen. Your word's saying you didn't find the sculpture, but your eyes are telling me a different story altogether. Do you presume to count me a buffoon? If you turn the statue over now, I'll forget that you just tried to ply my sensibilities with subterfuge. You may come to regret the choices you've made today. The unicorn isn't the only creature with a sharp point to make. And there you have it.
All right. Do I got my... kind of on sample recording we wanted to try out to test through some of the lines. It was a bit of description from the adventure, so we'll see if you might... we'll figure out a way to announce what we might do with the sound.
Spoiler alert, Mert's dangerous.
And some of this came about, obviously we've announced our, our partnership with Sirenscape, creating sounds and similar type dialogues for Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And I know you recorded some of that as well.
Yeah, they came up here. I don't know. He was in Australia.
They
and
came
he
here.
Flew here, and we did things and stuff. And I got to spend some time recording. I did some troll noises.
Yes.
And a variety of other sounds and stuff. I also did all of the lines for Dragon Heist by Zardoz Zord, the human alter ego of Jarlaxle. That was very fun.
I was going to say, I remember being at our little cubicle area, listening to these horrific noises coming out of one of our meeting rooms.
I think the whole third floor heard me. Whoops.
So when did Mert come about? Was it based on your characterization, your costuming of Mert? Was this based on Sirenscape, or was this a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Stream of Many Eyes? And
it was all about Stream of Many Eyes.
Okay.
So they asked. Greg Tito asked me if I would be Mert for the Stream of Many Eyes, and I immediately jumped on that chance. One of the first things I did in that process was I reached out to the master himself. I reached out to Ed Greenwood, and he and I had running dialogue over email about what Mert is like and what he might be if somebody were to portray him. Things that we've learned about, or I learned about Mert. Mert definitely came from a lower class background, an urchin background, and at a very young age, he was one of the only successful adventurers, along with his buddy Durnan,
Right.
To enter Undermountain and to escape with their lives and a good deal of money. So,
Well, he must have a good deal of money if he's offering 250 gold dragons for the
250 whole gold dragons. That's right. Yeah. And at the Dream of Many Eyes, he offered a loan of 250,000 gold dragons at the respectable rate of 50%, compounded over time, of course.
Well, he is Mert the Moneylender.
He is, in fact, Mert the Moneylender, and
These aren't grants that he gives out.
No, he's not a charity. He's not Mert the charity. Extra Life is a fantastic charity. Mert
does not participate.
does not participate. No.
And the voice, was this working with Sirenscape to kind of develop his cadence or style? Or was this something that was like, hey, this is how I'm gonna
That was actually a conversation. Again, that was a conversation with me and Ed, and I asked Ed, well, what would Mert sound like? And he said he would definitely sound like he had some kind of a lower class accent, maybe a brogue of some kind. And so brogue it was, and I just jumped on that grenade and made that happen for that. And then Sirenscape came along. I'm hoping that Ben will like the stuff that I just did today, and we'll maybe take another run at it or two in a studio sometime. And who knows, maybe you'll be able to get some soundtrack stuff for your Adventurers League content later on.
Nice. And how about the troll? What sort of directing did they give you for, like, give us a troll, make them scary?
I don't even remember. It's the troll was. It's like I forgot half that day. I couldn't like talk afterwards. I had to get like hot tea. And he says, "What you really need to do right now is just shut up for half an hour."
Well, yeah, I remember them coming in. It was all good fun. I got a chance to be a commoner in the tavern scene as well. So.
That would be fun.
It was. You know. But kind of going back to Ed Greenwood, it was also a lot of fun at the Stream of Many Eyes to be in the Yawning Portal Tavern with Ed Greenwood sharing a drink. It was like, boy, it's a very, very surreal experience.
Absolutely. There was a whole cast of characters there. Besides myself and Ed, there was also a gentleman there named Trent playing Minsk and Boo. Don't forget Boo. And it was good times.
All right, so yeah, we'll talk to Ben about future use.
Cool.
In any case, some of the other things we were talking about today, the DM's Guild.
Yep.
We kind of talked. You had kind of a two-part return question for me. I was asking very vaguely, I admit, about creating adventure material, and you had some suggestions for how you would approach sort of concepting.
Sure.
Useful and appropriate. You also were kind of mentioning the process as well. So if
Yeah.
folks are interested in kind of going through the process of submitting material to the DM's Guild, what does that entail?
So after you've got content, it really is. So the marketplace for the Dungeon Masters Guild is managed by the fine folks at One Bookshelf. They also are the fine purveyors at Drive-Thru RPG and a variety of other websites that sell PDF game products and so forth, as well as print on demand. And really, the process of becoming a part of the Dungeon Masters Guild is actually very simple. You go in, you set up an account. If you don't already have an account with the Dungeon Masters Guild, which is very similar to setting up an account with Drive-Thru RPG. If you have a Drive-Thru RPG account, that account will work for the Dungeon Masters Guild. Then you're going to basically go through a set of creators tools where you can enter in your content. There is an agreement. Now, whenever people see a click-through agreement, I mean, I'm guilty of this as well. You just want to click through that thing. Yeah, but when this has to do with money that you're going to make, I highly recommend you read the entire agreement so you understand what you're getting into, so there's no confusion later on. And then you'll put your work in, and there's a whole series of tools. And if you have questions, there's an FAQ there on the site that you can look at. Plus, the folks at One Bookshelf have a fantastic customer service staff that will help you as well.
Nice. Nicely done. Were you concerned to see Pelham crawl out the door off camera just now, or is that just me?
I was wondering who was going to come in the door, really.
No, so yeah, again, I mentioned this at kind of the top of the hour. I love the DMs Guild. I appreciate that you did a lot of hard work to get that set up, and I think it's a fantastic platform.
It's brilliant, and I love seeing people work together to make fantastic products. And when the fans can do that, just like we do here inside the building, maybe there's a future for you in RPG design.
And I know we look to elevate designers. As mentioned, there's material in Dragon Plus that we put in every issue.
Yep.
There's the Guild Adept program where we also work with some of the creators as well.
Absolutely. We're constantly on the lookout for new talent. We've the Guild Adepts, many of the Guild Adepts have now worked on actual products that either are out or are going to be coming out in the future here for Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons & Dragons. I'm very proud of the work that they've done and what they contribute to the community as a whole.
Nice. So again, really quickly, for folks that are tuning in, D&D News is now a full hour, starting at 3 p.m. Pacific, and Dice Camera Action, as always, at 4 p.m. Pacific. To find out a little bit more about the DMs Guild, it's dmsguild.com. The Adventures League, talking with Alan Patrick. Currently, right now, you can go to the D&D website or dndadventuresleague.org.
Yep.
And Gamehole Con coming up November 8th through 11th. It's gameholecon.com. Again, we'll be live streaming games here at Wizards of the Coast on Extra Life Game Day, November 3rd, all day, starting about 10:30 a.m., running till about 7 p.m. Pacific time. What else do we have going on? Waterdeep Dragon Heist, the wide release is today, I believe. So now it should be out for everyone.
Is that today?
It is today.
Today's Tuesday, isn't it?
It's Tuesday.
It has to be today.
Yes.
Wow, that's exciting.
It is. Well, it's odd, and I mean this is underway now as future products are in the work. You kind of forget how far back the process sometimes starts.
Yeah.
Like when Waterdeep Dragon Heist was in concept.
It's 2020 now, right?
Yeah. It's 2000. But yes, that is out. Also out now, Dragon Plus issue 21. Available for free. iOS, Android at dragonmag.com. Issue 22 will be available in very early October. Content is underway as we speak. We're going to be talking a little bit about costuming, of course,
nice.
and some other fun stuff for the holidays. Speaking of Dice Camera Action, I think I've mentioned this the last couple of episodes that it is coming. It is now here. DND fan art at wizards.com is a functional email that you can now use to submit fan art.
Cool.
We're now able to showcase fan art on our live stream, so we're going to begin collecting some of those so we can kind of do some slideshows at the beginning of the episodes and showcase a lot of your work that you spend a lot of time putting together. And we do look at it and we do appreciate it. So we want to make sure other people can see it and appreciate it. As always, you can also go to Twitter, #WaffleCrew, #fanart is another way to do so. DCA also has a subreddit as well. So we look forward to seeing what it is that you are creating. Other things for Extra Life this year, again, for Dragon Plus, kind of tying that back in, we're working on a little special adventure as well that we're going to be putting up in the DMs Guild a little later, closer to November 3rd, with the proceeds going to Extra Life. So
We are?
We are. Yes.
Cool.
You might have already seen on the D&D website, we were soliciting as part of this, we were soliciting rumors regarding the barrier peaks, and we'll factor some of those into the adventure.
Wait, that's where they... Oh, man. That didn't happen. That's like Roswell in D&D, the Barrier Peaks. That's not true.
It could be. These are rumors. I didn't say these rumors were true or false. They're just rumors. Yeah, I'll pass it. We've got it. It's with Scott Fitzgerald Gray at the moment, so I'll pass it. And some of the Guild Adepts had a hand in it.
Watch out for that shifty Canadian.
But yes, so that'll be in the works as well. If anyone is interested in taking a I'll save that for the Twitter. Some news on that. We also have again. Dungeon Mayhem is coming out in November. We'll be playing that on the November 3rd Extra Life Day.
That's super cool.
And thanks once more to Jen Roth, Stabby Quest for their contributions. Thanks to everyone who has contributed to Mr. Lindsay's Extra Life page already.
Yeah, thanks, actually. Thanks a lot.
As always, thank you for spending the last hour with us here on Dragon Plus. We will be back next week with, I believe, Dungeons and Doodles. We'll be doing our next round of doodling.
I will not be doodling.
And hopefully the week after, we'll get Jeremy Crawford back in. He's been heads down on bringing some products to the finish line. So Dungeons and Doodles next week. We'll look for Jeremy Crawford the following week.
Awesome.
Thanks to everyone for following and subscribing to the D&D Twitch channel. Thank you, as always, to our moderators hard at work. And thanks to all our viewers, as always. So we'll see you coming up in a couple minutes here for Greg Tito and the news. Alan Patrick left us, but thank you, Mr. Lindsay, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thanks to Mert.
Yeah. Mert thanks you as well. Sort of.
He loans his thanks.
That's right.
Oh, and Pelham. Forgot Pelham.